Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Heinz Kuzdas, and I am a German from West Germany, and I came to West Berlin in 1972, and that was a long time before the wall came down. And today we have 21 years after the fall of the wall, and almost Berlin is forgotten. West Berlin. That means now we talk only about Berlin, but for many, many years, 29 years, there was only West Berlin, and it was almost like an island. I want to read a little bit something which a East Berlin young press woman was talking about the situation of West Berlin on the time when this wall art was created by international artists. And many people who I can see are very young here, and they have not seen anything like that. And we are now talking only about the East Side Gallery, but the West Side was painted much more and was painted every night, more or less. And it kind of expressed the kind of atmosphere which was in those days before the wall came down.
Do you want him in the background turning over?
Yes,
Yeah.
but I tell you, and
okay.
now have maybe one, two. One don't even dare to talk about the phenomenon that the Berlin Wall was more than that symbol of the Iron Curtain and the fetish of the Cold War, but as well was a projection surface of the West Berlin identity. These pictures show the Berlin Wall art recalls what that special expression of lifestyle it was. Here we have the wall from the first days, that means even the first hours, how the wall was built just by bricks, and later it was more and more perfectionated. This kind of painting shows the Berlin Wall as a German lesson, Deutschstunde, which some students arranged after 25 years of wall as a celebrative art piece. And here you can see how the streets were blocked off. This is the street in Wedding, which is called Ackerstraße, where there is now the memorial Bernauer Straße. Here you have the barbed wire, which was the first few hours, and where a lot of soldiers still could escape in the first hours. And here you can see the bricks just put on each other and guarded by the soldiers. This is an early picture from streets just dividing in the intersection of the city. And here is already a more perfected wall, which is holded together by steel pieces. This is the Brandenburg Gate, also with a kind of in the first years. This was a spectator kind of platform where you could show visitors to look over the wall. And this is at the Potsdamer Platz, which is now totally changed and renewed, and you would not think that this is the way it looked a few years ago. Here Kennedy was visiting the wall also on those platforms, and the East German authorities put even curtains in the Brandenburg Gate, so he could not look over to the other side and maybe wave some people who were watching it. This is the more and more perfected version of the wall, which was even white painted and kind of whitewashed, and it was already getting like a canvas. Here you can see also near the Brandenburg Gate, it's more towards Kreuzberg, and it's still very clean and not used for any messages. Here you can see already some slogans like the wall can't live forever, or freedom, and it was also at the Potsdamer Platz. This is an example how it slowly got more and more used as a canvas, and children very much used it as a kind of place to play and also to paint on it. This is an example how the wall was used in an irony way, and this was more and more the fact that we had to live with the wall, and so people used it to in an ironic way, in a new way. And here's Glückwinkel is like a corner of luck. Or here, durch Leiden lernen, to learn through suffering. Or people would put some, slogans like, who comes through here, I'll give him a dollar or a buck. Or the wall has to go, and people would come there and take photos, and so the wall was used as a background for the atmosphere of that zeitgeist, of that period of time. And here, like, too bad that beton doesn't burn was put there, and here the last one puts out the light, and the wall is a super a great kind of joke, and this was used also for backgrounds of labels of record discs, or like here a green borderline. I just read today that in that area where the wall was, today there is a lot of butterflies surviving, very special butterflies, so this is a little bit the irony of that. And here the wall was getting more and more colorful. It was in the 80s, in the beginning 80s, and that is exactly when I started to document the wall, because I found that to live with a wall here in Berlin was like really so back. That means we were kind of flying to the moon, but in Berlin we still had the wall, and we could not go from one street to the other. And I thought that the world would have to know more about the wall, and this was a way to kind of show the exhibitions of these kind of designs and the wall, and to bring it among the people. Here, this was also around the Brandenburg Gate. This is the wall art done by people who lived also close to the wall. This is in Kreuzberg, which was a very famous place where French people started to play with the wall, and they lived close to it, and they used to do like 500 yards, and Okay. All right. Well, on. Oh, okay. And the French artist Thierry Noir, he was even fixing things at the wall, and there were guards from the east side coming and stopping them. If they really only painted, that was no problem, but to fix things was forbidden. So this was always in the West. Here you can see how the streets normally would just kind of continue, and the wall was blocking it in Bethanien on Kreuzberg. Most of the designs was by unknown people, and they would paint mostly in nighttime because they didn't want to get kind of documented by the guards, who mostly took photos of everything which happened around the wall. This is an example how even schools from West Germany came, and they prepared themselves to paint at the wall. They took the colors along, and then they said, we will go to Berlin and we will paint at the wall. This is an example, I think it's Korean or Chinese expression. This was also one of the early, very big paintings, which was by somebody nobody really knows who did it. This was like 20 years, 25 years of celebration of the wall in the 80s. This was like an example for also daily news, which kind of got represented at the wall, about a Korean air flight which was shot down by the Russians in the 80s. And so these expressions are just kind of it changed every night, every day, and people would use what was there and add something or take something away, and it was like the philosophy of time, the expression, and the play with the situation of the wall. Was that we more and more kind of used that irony, and people came and took their bikes going along the wall, and or taking the dogs out, and well. Okay. There were really incredible things. This was 84 already, and somebody said, let my paint die with the wall. So there was also somebody who was writing down the wall has to go in 85. This is the Checkpoint Charlie, which was one of the places where most people, visitors, would come and see. And so on the right side here, you see in the far, this changed almost every 3 weeks. And this was an artist from New York, Ron English, and he just did that overnight. And this is also the place where also Keith Haring was doing his piece. of a few hundred yards. And here you can see in the back the passage which only foreigners could go through. Here Keith Haring and Thierry Noir had a dispute because he was just finishing his piece there, and Keith Haring was coming and did something over the piece of Thierry Noir. And here you can see how it changed all the time. People also revolted against the painting of the wall, like you can see with a white mark to kind of protest for the painting of the wall. This is also one piece which was kind of protested here too. Also slogans about international movements were painted there, or anti-racist kind of slogans. This was something done in Wedding, which is where the Bernauer Straße was. And this was the wall actually was 4 meters in the east. That means 4 meters before was a nowhere land. And this was a Turkish old man who used it as a garden. And he starts to put his garden up there. And it's still existing today. You can go and see, he even built a house on it. And it's more or less in an overland. This is an example where somebody painted the church on the wall continuing. The church was in the east, and on the west side he was painting it on the wall to continue. These slogans about ecological themes. Somebody even put a kind of inlay with glass and with little stones, and he really worked hard to express himself here. These were the French military going along the wall, and they were allowed to go that close because in that overland 4 meters before the wall, the West Berlin authorities were not allowed, and it was only possible to visit that area. And this is from a friend's atelier of art, who always, as a provocation, he did some art pieces just in front of his window. This is American kind of patrol going through. This was a street which was divided very close to the West building, and also here. Along this stretch of this 4 meters, there were also people illegal living in kind of self-built housing and cars, and so this piece, when the wall came down, was actually in a very good condition and could be auctioned in Monaco for a lot of money. And here you see how the wall already was taken away with hammer. Here too, and more pieces, colorful after the. This is actually after the wall, the fall of the wall. Here also, whole families always took pieces of the colored. This is an example of somebody putting on people wake up and finally wake up. In the first days after the fall of the wall, they even had to put on metal a kind of protection, so the wall would not fall down, because it was really hammered down with holes. And this is the night when the first piece next to the Brandenburg Gate came down. And here you can see also first contact between the guards and the German West Berlin police, and how the wall was taken away. They're each 3 tons weight. And here the opening of the Potsdamer Platz. And there was long-lived Dalai Lama was there, and these are the last photos of taking away. And the wall is in your head. Somebody put on in the last moments, and Berlin is freedom. This was a very visionary kind of poster for election, which was 1 year before. The SPD was putting up like 2 children who were talking over the wall, and 1 year later the wall came down. So this was a very visionary poster for the election. And this was part of the film Himmel über Berlin, Over the Sky, from Wim Wenders. And this is Bruno Ganz, who is laying in front of this piece of wall. This is also Keith Haring again, where he's painting. And okay, these are just examples of real nice art. This is Positive Vibration. Only Positive Vibration was kind of helping to put the wall down. Nobody in our age was thinking that ever the wall would come down. This is an example how it changed all the time. The black silhouettes was only done by an American, a New Yorker, and the rest was kind of filled in and changed every day. This was one of the first ones. This is Jonathan Borowski. He did that in '82, and only the white figure, and the rest was done by somebody else and changed also constantly. And this is from Thierry Noir, also the one which was used in the Wim Wenders film. And this is the hearts from Kitty Kidney, which is now in a big museum in New York. And this is also an example how it changed. Somebody put on I Like Boys, and somebody did something else, and so really nice images were created. And this is the way how the wall was kind of put down and even auctioned in different places. And these pieces are all over the world in different museums and diplomatic places. Okay, I think that's more or less a little bit how the wall was looking those days. Thank you.
So thank you very, very much to Heinz Kuzdas for really a wonderful reflection from something that was not so long ago, 21 years. So on that occasion, Ryan, Carlo, and I would like to wish everybody a wonderful evening of some informal cultural diplomacy. So enjoy the evening. Enjoy the evening. Okay.